If you are trying to buy a home right now, I would just like to start the video off by saying, I know. I know it hurts. I know it's hard. And it's not your fault. Okay? It's not your fault. You did not do this. That was not a bit from Good Will Hunting. That was a heartfelt message to all of the people trying to purchase a home right now, because trying to buy a home right now is like trying to make friends in a prison riot where everybody has the highest quality homemade shank you could possibly imagine, and all you have is like a pencil eraser, and you have to like eraser burn them before you get stabbed to death. The market is really insane because of a lot of things, but all of those things, whatever they may be, I'm not going to get into listing all of them, have led to a really, really low inventory, okay? That means that there are more buyers than there are listings, so every time something does come on the market, you have buyers parachuting in from helicopters, you know, people climbing out of sewer accesses and just beating the door down, trying to fight each other to get this house. Whenever you have that many people making that many offers on one house, you have people doing things they wouldn't usually do out of necessity. Buying over list price, for example. That's not something that any rational person would do when given the option, if given the option. And right now, they're not really given the option in most price ranges. They just assume, if it's anything less than list price, the sellers probably won't even consider it. So there's that, going over list price. There is the other things like waiving contingencies. So like the contingencies are the things that say this has to happen for this to happen. And the common ones are financing contingencies, appraisal contingencies, and inspection contingencies. The ones I want to talk about for this video is the appraisal contingency, which says if the house doesn't appraise for the contract price, then the buyer can then get out of the contract and get their earnest money back. People are waiving that, saying, actually, it doesn't have to appraise, because there are so many cash buyers right now, or we have less cash buyers than we did, but a cash buyer doesn't have to get an appraisal if they don't want. The reason the people who are not paying cash have to get an appraisal is because it's a lender requirement. The person giving the loan, the bank, the mortgage company, whatever you want to call them, they are going to say, well, if we are going to loan money on this house, then we are not going to loan past a percentage of the appraisal amount. So they base their loan amount off of that appraisal. And they're not going to loan over that. They do this for a living. They are professional real estate buyers, honestly, if you think about it. But they are not going to loan over that amount, which means that the seller can either bring the price down, which silly goose. They're not going to do that. Or itchy back. Or the buyer can pay the difference in cash. That's your option. That's what people are doing, and it's not because they want to. So that's called an appraisal gap. Because of this intense competition, it's led to appraisal contingencies being waived, or at least an appraisal gap being offered, which is just saying I agree to pay X amount over appraisal price. Meaning, let's say if you offered a $10,000 appraisal gap, then you're agreeing to pay up to $10,000 over appraisal. What we are dealing with basically is the difference between purchase price and market value. Purchase price is what a buyer is willing to pay and a seller is willing to accept. It takes two conditions to meet that definition of purchase price. Market value is what the actual value of the property is based on data, what other people in that market are getting for houses similar to that house. So the purchase price, over time, with more purchases, with more sales, the more that gets filed into the county records, the more it brings up that value, because those those purchase price properties, all of those get filed, and eventually they become comparable properties to be used in an appraisal to by an appraiser. But whenever it's just you and the seller doing a deal, that is not going to factor into the actual value. The appraiser is not looking at what you're paying for it, although they are, but not in that sense. They're not using your opinion of the value to form their opinion of the value. And the bank is only going to listen to the appraiser, by the way. So that difference between value and price is going to be paid by cash, by the buyer. And the thing to remember that I want people to consider when they do that, whenever you're paying that, when you're paying over the value, you're buying negative equity, okay? So, let's say this is your home value. I'm trying to get rid of the glare. Oh, I feel like a creeper. Appraisal, loan amount, purchase price. Everything above the appraisal that you pay in cash is negative equity. So you're not only paying out cash, you're paying for negative equity. So if you paid $15,000 cash over appraisal, then you just paid $15,000 for $15,000 of negative equity. Now, I'm not saying that that's inherently a bad thing, and I'm not saying that that's exactly what's going to happen on every single deal. Maybe you're buying the house and you have a plan to force the appreciation up faster. Maybe values will continue rising like they are and you'll be fine within 2 or 3 years. But I don't ever want to bank on the unlikely. So what I am saying is when you are doing that, if you're paying an appraisal gap, which you are very, very likely going to be forced with doing that if you're buying a house right now, then pay attention to a few points of consideration. The first being, how long are you going to be in the house? It could be a moot point. If you are going to be in that property long enough for the gradual natural appreciation to offset your increased purchase price, if you're going to be in there long enough for the values to catch up to what you paid for it, then don't worry about it. But I would consider the market cycle is usually 10 years. So think about it. If you're going to be in there 15 years, you're probably okay. The other thing to consider is your cash position. How much cash do you have? Are you financially capable of comfortably doing that? So if you just sold a house, you're probably sitting on a good chunk of change because of the increased property values. It might not hurt to rent until things calm down for a little bit. The real estate market is cyclical. Don't buy at the top of the market if you don't have to. That's my recommendation, unless you just really love the house and you have enough cash and you don't care. I'll close the video out by saying, if you know somebody trying to buy a house, hug them right now, okay? Please tell them that it will be okay and that you love them. I'm going to be posting videos once a week. If you comment on my video, I'll probably respond to it at some point. I have 5 children in BD, but I'll get around to it, probably. If you like the video, prove that you like it with your little thumb, your little biscuit grabber. Poke that little thumbs up button. Let me know you care. Alright, I'll see you guys next week.